and lock their doors. I'm very happy to say that under the leadership of Principal Robin Patterson, we no longer have that. We've implemented a system that treats students with dignity and respect, and I'm very happy to see those changes. I also like to say that when I'm out there engaging the community, speaking in Spanish, I also learn from the community. I learned in speaking to a group of Latino parents in the 4D Developmental Assets Program at Santiago High School that they were shocked that there was an Asian American, a non-Latino, speaking Spanish. And one parent said in Spanish that she was very happy to see that because sometimes it's a point of shame to speak a language other than English. And if you know me, I'm very passionate about languages. You can almost say I love languages. And I see things in terms of languages. Any kind of form of communication is a language to me. And so I'm very happy that the governor signed into law the state seal of biliteracy. And I hope that by the end of this year, our district will participate, and our students that are fully competent and excel in English and another language will be recognized for those skills and assets that they bring to our community. I have a lot to learn. I have my Spanish dictionary in my office, as well as my Vietnamese dictionary. And when I speak in the community, a lot of times you'll see me on my Google Translate. But don't depend on that. It's not very accurate. So there are other websites that I use. But in general, I like to say that I've seen the changes in this district, and we're always working hard to improve. And there's always room for improvement. And there's always room for learning. And I'm dedicated as a lifelong learner. And just in that time of being appointed to this board and serving, it's been such a privilege and an honor to be a part of the community in a different way, as a representative and as a learner. So by all means, I hope that you will all continue to teach me. And it is my duty to learn with you. Thank you.
I want to share a couple of school visits that I had an opportunity to do. My first one was at Lake Intermediate School, and the focus this year is trying to continue to improve teaching and learning in the classroom. They're really working very hard to reach that goal of being able to say that they have highly effective teachers, constantly striving for excellence. I love going around the classes because you just never know what you're going to see. And I saw a great science lesson on atoms, and I think what impressed me there was just the wide variety of things that they were using. There was written material, there was audio material, there was visual material. Students were engaged, and then I got to sit in on an English class for a while and talking about the various definitions of discipline. You know, and I think probably Mrs. Reed and I, when we think about discipline initially, being school administrators, it was doing something to someone, but we also have to remember that there are disciplines that we study. So again, I'm just kind of like Mr. Wynn, I'm always impressed at the level of which our students are thinking at. I don't believe I had concepts like that until I was probably in high school for sure. I saw a wonderful example of the number of students who are participating also in the Girls and Boys Club there. We were honored by the Girls and Boys Club last month, and we talked about honoring them, and it just really is a great program. And one of the things that they picked up that I wasn't aware of was our intramural sports program at the intermediate school, and they've got football and basketball teams, and Lake happened to be, by the way, the champion football team for the Boys and Girls Club this year. Sometimes I think substitutes get a bad rap. You mentioned substituting, and I was really impressed. It was the Friday before Thanksgiving, So the absentee rate was probably a little bit higher than it normally would be on a regular Friday. But I really saw some good substitutes teaching in the classroom. They weren't left with busy work. They weren't left with just things to kind of fill the 55-minute period. There was really some good instruction going on, which is a credit to the people that were hiring and bringing in the classrooms. But it's also to the credit of the teacher who obviously left something meaningful for that substitute to use. I also saw preparations for what they have as an annual event. They call it Turkey Trot. And it's an after-school activity where they have a series of races and games, and they give away, this year they had about 25 turkeys that they could give away for the kids to take home for Thanksgiving dinner. And of course that's a school that has students with a lot of need. You know, I learned a lot about the community by visiting them, just trying to figure out who these schools are named after. And this school is named after H. Lewis Lake, who was a native Garden Grover, born here. His family owned the Buena Park Lumber Company. And it appears for many years, from about the early 1900s up through the 1950s, they had a monopoly on all of the lumber that was sold in the community. So any new project, you had to go to Garden Grove Lumber to make that purchase. He's a 1928 graduate of Garden Grove High School, but really what made his name is that he was very active in politics, was the first mayor of Garden Grove, and then served on the city council for several terms. I went to Jordan Intermediate School last Friday, and again, just a great visit. Their focus is trying to increase parent involvement. They've had very poor participation in their parent groups and evening events. I did talk a little bit about technology and how they're using the student portal, since we had a rather spirited discussion on that. And they only have less than a third of the parents are logged on to that, but they were planning an Avid night for Avid parents to be sure that those folks are up and using it. Saw an English class that was meeting outside using the technique that they call lines of communication. That was very interesting. I saw another class discussing the various meanings of pain in a story that they had just completed. And then across the campus, there were 8 students in a basic ELD class, and they were really newcomers. And again, it was just very interesting in how they're beginning their journey on English mastery. I saw a lesson on building cathedrals in one of the social studies classes, and then another one on the Crusades. They were allowed to sync, the teachers were. But I kind of had one of these, what goes around comes around minute. I went into what's called a Young Living class, and it was in home ec room that had been gutted at some point, and guess what? They're teaching home ec to those kids again in that room. So the principal has a vision of putting some ovens and some of the equipment back in, and I was thinking, you know, about that cycle in education, that this is again a skill that we really need. And the children, by the way, that were in there, the young people, were learning to make lunches that they could do on their own that were pretty simple to make, but also healthy and cost-effective. And then, you know, I just love the fact that we still have art and music, and there were just lots of young people engaged in that. Jordan is named after Donald S. Jordan, and I didn't know this, but he was a guy in Garden Grove that's known as Mr. Education. According to the history, everybody recognized him on site. He started out as an ag teacher at Garden Grove High School in 1929 and stayed in the district and became an assistant principal. But later he served 3 terms on the Orange County Department of Ed Board of Education. So we just have a rich history here. I did see or have a mystery moment. As you walk into both campuses, I noticed that first at the lake is that there are plaques there. And the first date on the plaque as you go in into the office is AL 5962 or AL 5963. And then the AD date, 1962 or 1963, was below that. So of course I asked the principal, it's supposed to be the font of all knowledge, do you know what that means? And kind of a blank expression, because people walk by those things 1,000 times and will think about it. But it took me a while, but I did some research on Google, and it was a little more accurate than what you were using. And it appears that's a calendar that they use in the Masonic lodges. And my guess is, my first guess when I saw it late was that maybe Mr. Lake had been a Mason, and the Masons had been involved in the dedication of the school with his name. Then I saw the same thing at Jordan, and now I'm just thinking that perhaps the Masons were involved when we dedicated the school, regardless of whether or not there was a Mason involved. So I met somebody today who may have that information at our employee recognition event where we were handing out longevity pins. So I'm going to ask that question and see if I can find that out. I also joined Bowen at Bell Intermediate for the Thanksgiving feast. That was my first visit, and again, it was
delicious.
Well, it was delicious, but also it was just, I was just amazed at how many people were there. There were current students, there were Pacifica students who had walked over, there were graduates who were young adults now, all students with some types of learning disabilities. There were parents, there was staff, there were community members, and the nice thing I saw again, I'm glad we have our CSEA representatives here, is that it's not possible to do this. The kids fix all the raw ingredients, but it's our food services over there, our folks that work in the kitchens that really help prepare that food. So, and they got a nice round of applause during it. But the thing that really tugged at your heart is when you see the slideshow that's part of this Thanksgiving feast. So we had lots of district folks there too, and I enjoyed that very much and be looking forward to that again. So that concludes my comments. We have one more event that we need to do. We have a board member who has reached a milestone also. Mrs. Reed, who was not able to attend our event, has served faithfully for 15 years through good times and bad times in this district. And I want to present you with your pin.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And one more, please.
Thank you, Alan.
Mrs. Armitage, you know how many we had there today?
I do not.
I mean, it was a slew. And we had one of our personnel commissioners who had 45 years of service, and we had 2 employees there. I believe there were 3, however, who have reached the milestone of 40 years. So lots of dedication to the children of this school district. Okay, we're going to conclude the open session, but before I do that, I want to give you the next 2 meeting dates, and that will be January 3rd, 2012, and January 17th of 2012. Do we have an early meeting on one of those days?
We do. The board had agreed that it would work for you to meet at 5:30, have a study session, update on the facilities.
On the 3rd?
On the 3rd, if that still works for you.
Still good with everybody?
And then our regular meeting will start at 7, as usual.
And are we going to take photographs tonight? Or?
Right after, before we go into closed session, if you can stay to get the board photos, everyone's here, and it'll allow Alan to get that, and we won't need to let her arrange that again after the first year. Now that it's
Okay, so we'll adjourn the open session, take some photographs, and go into closed session, and we will be taking an action following the
but not
closed
in closed
session.
session. We'll take
Right.
that.
Right. So thank you for coming.